Hello and welcome. I'm your host, William Liu. You are listening to the Hello and Welcome podcast presented by Betway. We are going to discuss the 6 biggest takeaways from the 2024-2025 NBA season for the Toronto Raptors. But first, we got to welcome back producer co-host Alex Wong, back from Montreal. What do they call Montreal, man? You know how we have like the big smoke? What's Montreal, man?
Isn't it La Belle Province?
But that's for like all of Quebec.
Oh, so it's not specific to Montreal? Yeah.
I mean, it says province, man.
I don't know, man. I didn't study geography.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah, that's
Welcome
where I
back,
was.
buddy. How was your
Thanks.
trip, man?
It was great, man. You know, every place you think I've been to in Montreal, I went there during my time there. You know, I found a couple new places. So next time we're there for training camp, can introduce you guys to 2 to 3 additional places.
Wow.
Yeah, I went to my first PWHL game. Probably took the Metro. This is the most I've taken the Metro during like a 7-day period in my entire life. So
Okay.
just want to shout out to the Montreal Metro. You know, the orange line to Montmorency.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
The Saint Michel blue line. You know.
Wow, you're on the blue line?
Yo,
Come
man,
on,
you know, had to go to Snowden Deli because everybody was like, Schwartz's is done now, is cooked. So no, shouts to everyone in Montreal. Shouts to Sergio from Cafe Big Trouble and Turbo House as well. Got a chance to catch up with him and some other people as well. So yeah, happy to be back. You know,
Yeah,
beautiful
you sound,
Toronto.
you sound thrilled.
Oh, I'm thrilled, man. You know, the Raptors. You know what happened? What I missed, man. Raptors lose a couple games, win a couple games. You know. You know, that's about it. Yeah,
You didn't miss much. I'm not going to lie to you, man. You did not miss much. It was, what did we see this week? Raptors, Nets, which, if you got to be a real diehard fan who have watched Raptors Nets.
Oh my god,
like that was crazy.
You gotta be a diehard fan to watch Raptors in general.
No, but
These
the
days.
Raptors Nets on Sunday was at the exact same time as
Yeah.
OKC versus the Lakers, which you would obviously watch that.
well,
And
this-
then it was also at the same time as the NCAA Women's Final, which you would
Yeah.
also watch that. Like Raptors wouldn't even get second screen experience. You'd have like the third screen for Raptors on that one.
Well, fortunately, tomorrow you're gonna get a chance to go to Raptors' final home game against the Charlotte Hornets at the same time as Luka making his return to Dallas.
Oh,
So you know,
might
pick
have
your
the second
poison.
screen in the arena, man. That's
Pick
tough.
your poison. Yeah, pick your poison. So
Yeah.
Raptors season is winding down. 3 more games left in the regular season, and then assuming Masai once again is gonna tell Bobby to go to the podium and say nothing at the exit interviews. No, we'll see. We'll see what they say. It's been has it been an interesting season? I don't know. Has it been an interesting season to you? Now that you sit back, look at this.
If you give the Raptors a letterbox rating, what would you give it for the season?
Damn, man, I was doing this. I was gonna do this on the next episode for all 30 teams.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's kind of fire. That's
Yeah,
kind of fire.
I am doing that.
Okay.
I would give it a 2.5.
2.5.
I think
what does
I'll
that
have
mean?
to give
Like,
it 2.5 for me is that from an entertainment value standpoint, I think especially coming down the stretch in the season, there was not a lot of entertainment. I think, we're going to, I'm going to present to you my takeaways from the Raptors season. There were things that they just kind of failed at or didn't deliver on. So like, the plot was lacking a little bit. So I think overall it just came in below expectations from those standpoints. So I would have to give it less than 3 stars. It'd be a 2.5 stars for me.
yeah, 2.5 is 2.5. I think is like you'd watch it on the background, but you're like on your phone the whole time. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those. Like that's how I watch most Raptor games this season. Actually, was actually the TV's on, and then I got my phone in my
Secrets
fan.
revealed.
I'm just in group chats being like, "Yo, can you believe how bad the Raps
Lead
are?"
Raptors analyst is a fraud, and his co-host doesn't watch games.
Just kidding. No, I've watched every
No,
single
shout out
game.
to
You can see
Tangerine,
my
man.
notes
Let's
on
go.
every single game, guys.
Yeah. But yeah. So what's your rating, man?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. 2.5 is probably there. I wanted to do as we usually do. We'd like to do drafts.
Sure.
And I had an idea to do favorite moments from the 2024-2025 season draft.
There's no way there's enough to draft.
Come on, man. I was going to take Jacoby Walters game winner against Orlando
Oh
as
my
the
God.
first overall pick, man.
Okay, maybe we'll just let you run these down at some point because
Yeah, we're not.
I definitely do not have moments from this season that I could give you. Probably Darko fighting Tristan Thompson.
That's a good moment. I like that one. I also have Darko's crash out against Memphis. Remember, he got himself ejected.
Yeah, I mean, his crash out against the Lakers last year was better.
That was definitely the number one moment of last year. I also have the Brandon Ingram trade specifically because you and I and Jerome we had the inside scoop on that. We actually knew that trade was taking place like 10 minutes before it actually broke.
Right.
That's why we were able to go live immediately when Shams tweeted it.
Yeah, we were also at Hongsheng at the time. We had just finished our React pod, and we were able to reset up right away and get ready. Yeah, I feel like that was a thrill for you. Like I could feel the adrenaline kind of like coursing through your veins.
Yo, I'm just saying, we had that insider text, and I guess
is that the first ever real scoop that we've received?
No, we
like real time scoop though, like real time, like yo, this trade's going down. Have you ever got one of those of like, did you get like, oh man, like, Knicks are about to trade for OG? Yeah.
That one, no, I didn't have any scoops on that one. The Pascal stuff I was pretty tapped into.
Oh yeah, no, that was big for Hello, man. That was a Hello bomb.
No, that was actually a Hello bomb. The thing is, like, you need. I think what's the standard thing? It's like you need 2 independent sources verifying.
Not in today's media landscape.
Really?
Yeah. You can say.
I guess I could have jumped out with it. I could have jumped out with it.
Actually, I did get a scoop 24 hours before the Norm Gary Trent Jr. trade.
Oh!
I was aware of that. But I don't think I respect scoops because I'm like, shouts to the person who told me, but I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, just 2 people bragging about the scoops that didn't tweet out. It's crazy, man.
I did beg Serge's manager to give me the scoop of whatever he was doing in free agency, but I guess he forgot and just told Woj. He's like, who am I going to tell? Steven LeBron or Woj?
No, the funny thing is, like, knowing how tapped in some of these guys are, it's like not even necessarily always a scoop in terms of like you're breaking pieces of news.
No,
half the time it's just a press release. Like a deal is done in place between the team, the player. They make sure they let Woj or Shams back in the day, or I guess Shams, but Woj back in the day. They let them all know that all the pieces are there. And then once they decide on whatever day to release the news, they'll just tell Shams, okay, go ahead and tweet it. Right, and this is not for everything. Like, obviously, the Luka trade, that he broke that trade. But, like, there's certain pieces, especially in free agency, where, like, shit is done way ahead of time. And it's just about when you announce it. And at that point, it's, like, basically a press release. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think, Hello should work on getting a scoop and breaking one piece of news for next season.
What level of scoop are we getting? Is it, like, Cole Swider has signed a second,
I'm going for that J Electronica Exhibit 10.
Okay, yeah. You know what? I trust you, man. I actually trust your level of access and insight to get one of these breaking news pieces. It's going to be like, O'Shea Brissett has signed a 10-day contract with the Indiana Pacers.
Time to find another gluten-free restaurant in the city of Toronto.
Don't give it away. Come on,
all right,
man.
6 takeaways. These are mine. You can agree or disagree with them. Add to it if you would like.
Okay.
So my 6 takeaways, these are big picture takeaways I look back at this Raptor season. Number 1 for me, I think the biggest storyline that I'm going to remember from this season is that the Raptors failed at tanking. I think for me, having them sit at 8, we've had so many different tanking conversations, what could be done, et cetera, but they were 8-31 in early January with a real chance to secure the top 3 lottery odds, to get the best odds out of the group, to get the number 1 pick. They ended up playing over 500 ball from then on. Meanwhile, we watched all these other teams go to embarrassing lengths to tank. Like the Jazz were filling up their injury report to the point where I think Adam Silver stepped in and fined them. The Sixers were fielding like less than a G League team. The Nets, all of this stuff. Meanwhile, the Raptors, I feel like, just kind of half measured it, They would rest certain players. They've got guys on like every other game rest plans. Like IQ and Jakob are playing every other game. They kept playing Scottie. They ended up playing themselves out of a realistic chance at a number 1 pick. And I think looking back, especially looking back at the past 3 seasons, like they traded for Jakob and went for the play-in and gave up a first rounder there. Last year they had to, they tanked, they tore down the roster, but they had to convey the pick to the Spurs, and then they failed to tank the second half of the season. And none of these wins in the second half, like I know, like do those wins mean anything? these second half wins versus if they could have gotten more lottery ball like combinations. So to me, I look back and I thought this was a great chance for the Raptors to get into that top 3, and they didn't.
Yeah, I mean, look, especially at that point in the season when they were 8-31. I mean, at that time, I think back to the show, we were joking about like, will the Raptors win more than one road game on the year? Like that was the whole thing. They had like one road game, won on the year at that point. I think the couple things to really consider on that front. The reasons why the Raptors were 8-31 to start the year. Number one was defense. The Raptors, from the start of the season until January 11th, they were the third worst defense in the NBA. And the only two teams worst on defense were Washington and Utah. And there weren't really that much ahead of Washington and Utah. So number one, like Raptors were losing every game because they don't play defense. Number two, they had obviously a lot of injuries, right? Scottie missed 13 games. 11 with a broken face and then 2 with an ankle sprain early in the season. You remember that play against the Denver Nuggets when the Raptors, choked it towards the end of the game, but then also Jokic hit Scottie with the elbow. This is all the way back in October at this point, but Scottie missed a ton of time. IQ missed more time than anybody in that stretch where he had a thumb injury in training camp, forcing him to sort of miss a lot of preseason, which whatever, it's preseason. But then as soon as the home opener begins, he gets clipped by Darius Garland. Shouts to a friend of the program, Darius Garland, a friend of the community. Yeah. And he misses 8 games with a hip injury. As soon as he comes back, he plays a few games, but then he sprains his elbow. Remember, he was out for like a month and a half with the elbow sprain. So IQ wasn't around. And then the Raptors were also essentially doing like tanking measures. Remember, like Bruce Brown was like injury management for a very long time. And I know it's like, okay, it's just Bruce Brown. Like you barely remember him as a Raptor. But when Bruce Brown actually played, he actually did help contribute towards wins for the Raptors in January when the quote unquote turnaround began for the season. So the Raptors held out Bruce Brown for literally as long as they possibly could. Kelly Olynyk had a bad back. That missed, he missed a huge chunk of time there as well. So between the lack of defense and the injuries and the very difficult schedule as well, because that's the third thing, it was just, the Raptors had this crazy schedule where like they had the hardest schedule leading up to the All-Star break, and then afterwards they've had the easiest schedule since, kind of by far. So this like really polarized schedule kind of like all coalesced into like the Raptors being 8-31. But then again, we knew the true talent of the team wasn't necessarily 8-31. And I think that really what you saw in the second half of the year was the Raptors tried to adjust. Like we've seen sort of half measures with tanking. We've seen like, okay, we'll play them until the fourth quarter and we'll press them tight. And then we'll be like, all right, just kidding. We're going to close with our G Leaguers. Or like we've seen the Raptors like do alternate rests. So IQ and Jakob will play one night when RJ sits, and then RJ will play when IQ and Jakob sit. You know what I mean? Like we've seen that aspect. We've seen Ochai Agbaji join in that stretch. Chris Boucher hasn't played a game since February, which is kind of nuts to me because I remember the last thing I said to Chris was just like, yo, Chris, you're going to be top 10 in Raptors games played by the end of the season. Not even kidding. He hasn't played like more than 2 games since point.
Has he played since you interviewed him in Atlanta?
No, we interviewed him in Philly.
Oh, yeah. Did you hit him with the hello curse?
I might have cursed Chris Boucher, in which case I'm sorry. But like they've tried those measures, but I think at the same time as that was happening, maybe the Raptors were probably caught off guard with like just how difficult it was to outcompete some of these teams like Utah, like Philadelphia. I feel like those two are the ones that are like, and New Orleans too. New Orleans looked like they were getting healthier. Zion came back, and then they still didn't win. And I think those 3 teams, they probably expected them to be, a little bit better than they were. And I guess like the degrees to which those 3 teams went into tanking just outcompeted the Raptors in terms of tanking. But at the same time, it's like, I guess, like, would you want the Raptors to do something differently? Like, what tangible actions could the Raptors have done to tank even harder than they did?
I guess just, like, shutting down players and just going to the extent where you are going into games where you're just not winning. Like, that's what the Sixers did, right? Like, the Sixers, I mean, Joel Embiid was actually injured and Paul George too, but, like, Maxey didn't play. He was eventually shut down. Like, they could have just shut down players and gone for it. I just think this was such a good opportunity to get into a draft that clearly has the talent at the top. And even if you just look at the draft pick, landing a top 3 draft pick as just an asset, if you're thinking about just like winning now, what you can do with that as well. And like winning these games just was not worth it. Like I wish they gave a full effort. I just didn't feel like they gave the full effort to tank, the full embarrassing effort to tank and lose every game.
I agree with you there in terms of like they didn't hit the same levels that other teams did. That's not to say the Raptors didn't try to tank. They absolutely tried to tank. That was the intention of the front office. That was the strategy carried out by the coaching staff, and generally speaking, the players went along with it in terms of accepting, not playing in a lot of these games. The only thing I would change is just like, I think the Raptors prioritize development over tanking. And usually development and tanking go hand in hand, but they prioritize development over tanking in the sense that they've given these reps to these young guys who have, like, the reason the Raptors are winning now isn't because Scottie's putting up 30-point triple doubles, or that like RJ's like lighting it up, or IQ is lighting it up. The reason the Raptors are winning right now is, number one, they're playing hard on defense, right? They went from the third worst defense to the third best defense. And then they also got a lot from their rookies. Like, it's Jamal Shed who's driving winning right now. Last game, he was a plus 31. It's Jakob Poeltl who's hitting game winners and consistently, showing what he has. It's Jamison Battle. It's Jonathan Mobo. It's these guys where they're really showcasing their growth over the season. And I feel like at the end of the day, you got to give Darko something, man. Darko's known for the development. And if he succeeds in developing, then you can't necessarily, the Raptors are not tanking, right? Because he's actually just developing them well. And I feel like that's the part that, for me, is like, they've succeeded in their bigger goal in developing, but that's hurt their prospects of tanking, which is, I suppose, their more short-term goal. So,
yeah,
I don't know, man. It's, I don't know. I wouldn't have wanted to see the rookies sit, you know what I mean? And I think, by the way, the one thing that should be acknowledged is the Raptors' secret strategy with tanking was they were going to play a lot of Always Shamshay down the stretch. And
he got injured, right? Yeah.
And then he got injured. And then same thing with Grady Dick. Grady Dick, towards the second half of the season, was not a positive contributor. They were going to play him a ton, which would have tanked a lot of their defense. So, like, I think those injuries actually specifically hurt their strategy to tank.
Yeah.
But again, like, it is what it is. You know what I mean? Yeah,
I just think my last thing on this, just like, they're not going to do this again next year, or, that's not the plan for them. Based on, like, the Brandon Ingram trade and all that. We'll talk about it later. So, like, I just thought this was the one good opportunity for you to really get another prize rookie, and they could have done a better job. But when I look back on the season, this is the one thing I'm going to remember, because I just feel like coming in, you were looking at this team, the record that they were going to hit, and that this was the season that they could get away with the tanking and get a top pick. But yeah, listen, this won't matter when the lottery combinations hit and we get like the number 2 pick or whatever. So
yeah, well, I mean, maybe we'll do another tankathon simulation roll later on to end the show. That's what we've been doing, man. While you've been gone this week, me and Jerome just been rolling. We've been playing the lottery, man.
Y'all been gambling without me, man. Let's put some money on this, man. Okay, next up, I have we went through this season and didn't get a chance to evaluate the Scottie, RJ, and IQ trio together. I think we talked so much about this at the start of the season, and just wanting them to be healthy, wanting them to have a stretch. And you already mentioned, like, all the injuries that IQ had. And they ended up only playing 15 games together, 271 minutes. And, for me, this was one of the goals coming into the season, getting a clear picture of what these three look like. And I guess the calculus has changed a little bit, too, like assuming that nobody gets traded in the offseason. Now you're looking at evaluating these three along with Brandon Ingram. But I just thought this was one of the things that the Raptors, and this was out of their control because of injuries, etc. Just like one of the goals coming into the season that they didn't get to hit.
Yes, no, certainly. I mean, I think that was part of what made last season a little bit frustrating, was that you didn't really get to see maybe your core 5 play together, right? Like your expected starting lineup was Grady Dick, was Jakob Poeltl, was Brandon Ingram, or not Brandon Ingram, but RJ Barrett, Scottie Barnes, and Emmanuel Quickley. They didn't really get a chance to play those guys together much last season, mostly because, towards the second half of the year, there were a lot of players unavailable. Scottie broke his hand. IQ and RJ were dealing with deaths in the family and their own injuries as well. So, like, that ruled them out. Jakob Poeltl also was out for the last month of the season with his injury. And then, Grady Dick was kind of like the only guy around. So, like, you didn't get a chance to see it last year, but that was the goal this year. As you mentioned, BBQ really only played 271 minutes together this season. By the way, that's by design this year. Like, they're intentionally resting, for example, IQ and RJ on alternate days. So if they really wanted to see more of those guys together, they actually could. They could just like choose not to rest them, or choose a different pattern of rest. Let's say you go with IQ and RJ playing together, and then Jakob sits, and then you like, there's other ways you could have manipulated the lineups. But ultimately, 271 minutes. It's not a big sample, But I think what's a little bit concerning is that in those 271 minutes that Scottie, RJ, and IQ played together, they are a minus 76 in 271 minutes. Their offensive rating with those three guys on the floor is 102, and their defensive rating is 115. So on both ends, not good. If you throw Jakob in there, because I feel like Jakob's like the next biggest, most important piece on the team, the four-man lineup with BBQ plus Jakob is still minus 11.2 net rating, which is, again, not good. The silver lining to me is like last season, they actually did better. The Raptors actually saw 439 minutes of BBQ in last season, and they were plus 36 in that time. So like a marginal plus, right? And again, if you expand it to the four-man group, that's a plus 65 with Jakob in there at 234 minutes last season. So it could just be a little bit of small sample. But I did actually go through the games in which the Raptors played with Scottie, RJ, and IQ, and just tracked a little bit of like, okay, who did they play against? Who did they lose to? Because I feel like that, especially in a smaller sample, you need to comb through a little bit more detail to see like what actually influenced those numbers. So their wins with those guys in the lineup together are against the LA Clippers, your LA Clippers, against the Phoenix Suns, who, you know, were just terrible all season.
Yeah, your Phoenix Suns,
yeah, I guess I did like them a little bit at the start of the season.
Did you?
Not really, but, you know, it is what it is. Orlando, and then they beat Orlando twice. Remember those 2-10 games towards the end of the year. The losses in that stretch, they lost to Milwaukee, they lost to New York, they lost to Cleveland, they lost to Detroit, they lost to Chicago, they lost to Cleveland again, Miami, Boston, and Chicago again. So that's a 4-9 record in those 11 games. This is just by me counting it, so maybe I missed a game here or there. But, like, it's not necessarily like there was a huge model of success with those three guys. And I guess my question to you is, like, given what I've told you this year about how they did and who they played and who they won against, what worked with those three guys and why ultimately did it not work with those three guys this year?
Man, I don't know. The thing for me is, like, I feel like we got to evaluate Scottie and we got to evaluate RJ as individual players this year. For me, my biggest question is still just like, I don't know what this team looks like with IQ as a starting point guard. And I think like having brought him in from New York where he was playing a bench role, like you wanted to see what that was going to look like with the additional minutes and additional responsibility. And I think like a year, one full season into his contract, like I think those questions are still out there, right? Because he's more of a score first point guard as well. And when you bring him into to a situation with RJ and adding in Brandon Ingram now, like what's that gonna look like? What's his role gonna be? Like how's he gonna hold up over the course of a season? So the bigger question for me, aside from the trio, is just more on IQ. Like I think out of these three players, like there's just so little information about them, especially with this configuration of the team, that I feel like you're gonna go into next year with still the same questions about what he's gonna be. And it's like the Raptors made a pretty sizable commitment to him financially, and you would hope that the next few seasons you're going to get a good return on that, especially because they're not planning on tanking or losing games going forward. So for me, my big question is with IQ. Like I just want to see, I just want to get an extended run of seeing what it looks like with everybody else.
I would like to see an extended run. At the same time, everybody's now getting paid. Like it is a pretty expensive lineup. Not that it's clouding out any opportunities. You know what I mean? It's not taking up their budget to do something else. But also at the same time, for me, it's just like, I want to see, especially with Ingram in that group, like how are they going to balance the offensive and defensive responsibilities? I think one of the clear takeaways for me is just with BBQ, even though all three of those guys are capable of scoring, none of those guys are capable of 3-level scoring. And so it does lead to lots of scenarios where, you know, you're just not seeing great like offensive synergy between the three of those guys a lot of the time. Hopefully Ingram, you know, the best case scenario is Ingram comes in, takes on the hardest defensive opponents, takes on, you know, that ability to draw pressure, can play on and off the ball, and that sort of like allows everyone else to sort of play a more efficient game. But also at the same time, to me, I'm like, defensively, there's probably some issues there. Ultimately, I agree with you. Like, there is just a lot of like questions that you would ideally not have so many questions heading into a year where you're trying to win next season. You know what I mean?
Like is Ingram, like I know he's talked so much about Ingram, like you think Ingram's just going to slot in and be like down the stretch in close games, like, yo, we're getting the ball to Brandon Ingram. Like he's going to be our guy.
Well, that's one of the other things. It's like, I mean, it's hard to evaluate anything necessarily in a season where you're tanking so much and you're just had so much like roster turnover and injuries, et cetera, et cetera. But like one of the things for me watching the season is just like the Raptors really struggle in crunch time, man. And like that doesn't matter this year because they're not trying to win, but it'll matter next year when they're trying to win. And this is not a problem that just necessarily solves itself. You know what I mean? Like the Raptors, have been one of the worst crunch time teams in the NBA on the season. Their net rating in crunch time is -15. The only teams worse are Utah at -26.
Yo, that's how you tank, man. Yeah.
-26 is crazy.
Masterclass. Danny Ainge masterclass, man.
And then the Miami Heat, who are like genuinely one of the worst. They're like they've had an all-time choking season basically because that team's actually good for the first 40 minutes and then they're bad in the last 8.
Yeah, it's sad to see Heat culture get completely punctured, and Eric Spoelstra's LinkedIn is taking a bit of a hit this year, man.
It's tough, man. Yeah, his reputation has gone down.
Yeah. Next up for me, another main takeaway from this season is that the rebuilding era is over after one full season. Everybody came into media day with the mandate of calling this year one of the rebuild. I think we heard Darko say that. I believe Masai and Bobby said that as well.
Jakob went viral for the first time in his life.
Oh yeah, did he say? What did he say? He's like, we're not going to win a lot of games.
He's like, look, the priority isn't to win every game, and I'm like, oh brother. Yeah, I totally understand what you mean, but yeah.
I wish they stuck to that priority. But the Brandon Ingram trade obviously signals a clear move to try to win next season. And I think, one of the takeaways I didn't have here, and I probably should have, is just like, the Raptors being so successful at last year's draft and finding a lot of these young guys to be able to form at least a capable like bench unit that they can fill guys around and stuff, I think has accelerated the process as well. So, for me, the most interesting thing now is like going into next season, and maybe they'll talk about this next week at their exit interviews, is I'd be very interested to see how the team positions their goals publicly. Like, is it,
yes,
we want to make the top 6, or is it going to be more vague? Like, oh, we just want to improve and develop on this season. Because, we've seen Masai make very bold declarations before. And obviously, he's not the one that's taking the podium all the time now, but I'm curious how the team looks at this and how they want to set expectations for next season. Because I think there's fans that are going to set expectations for this team to be in the top 6 or whatever it is.
No, I'm always curious with this because like a lot of what front offices say publicly, especially in like post-game press or post-season press conferences and stuff like that, is just like people are very cautious to not set too high expectations for themselves because you don't want to hang yourself basically in this scenario, right? Like if you say we're going to be a playoff team next year and it doesn't work out like that, then obviously something has to happen. We need to see major trades, or we need to see like coaching changes, like what I mean. Like that's just generally what happens if you have a disappointing season. So I will be really curious. I think for me, especially with Ingram coming in and how big of a piece that is, I think they should wait until what they see in the summertime, whether that's like those guys seeing those guys in scrimmages, how they fit together as personalities. I guess they've gotten Ingram for the last 2 months just as a behind the scenes guy in terms of like he's around, he's just not playing. But like I would wait to use summertime and even use training camp to evaluate the fit, before sort of making any grand proclamations. Right. I think they'll probably still try to take it slow. You know what I mean? And if they ultimately are good, then they can celebrate being good. But I think especially for these guys, like they should be smart and not oversell their expectations. Because if they do that, and if they're on record saying this should be a playoff team next year, we expect that the rebuild is over, and it doesn't work out, that's how people get fired.
Yeah, because I think the most likely scenario for them is they just land in the play-in spot next year, right? Like I'm just looking at the play-in right now, like a below 5 right now. I mean, this season a below 500, near 500 record gets you there, and you would project them to probably be that type of team with a chance to be better than that. So I don't know. Like I'd be interested to see how fans react to that too, because there's just such a negative connotation of being a play-in team.
Sure.
But I do think like this team does need to just like take a step forward first before they think about the top 6. But then, every year there's stories like the Detroit Pistons who like they've been a great story, but if you look at them, like it's not like they have this crazy record. They're like
Right.
7 games over 500. Like they're
No, you know
probably on
what's
pace
crazy?
to win like 45 games.
So, shouts to friend of the program, Michael Grange, but he wrote a piece over at Sportsnet being like, basically the gist of it was after the Raptors lost to the Pistons was like, hopefully the Raptors can be like the Pistons and take this jump, right, from, developing to winning, which they have done this season.
Tough season for the writers to have to find the stories.
No, but my crazy thing is I could have sworn I saw articles last season, which was like, good, at least we're not the Pistons. You know what I mean? Like when the Pistons are losing 28 straight, it was like, at least we're not the Pistons. And now it's like, I hope we could be like the Pistons. It's crazy.
The thing about the old days, man. That'll change quick on you. Yeah.
No, but I have two things on this. Number one, with the Brandon Ingram trade, the more I think about it, I'm like, it probably will necessitate other moves down the line, right? Like we got to see how it all fits together first, but ultimately that could lead to other pieces, for example, being moved or the role significantly adjusted. You don't bring in a big guy like this and not sort of see a downstream effect on the rest of the roster. Mm-hmm. My question to you is like, aside from that, do you feel like the Brandon Ingram trade, besides the actual acquisition of a player of his quality, is it not also just a contract value play? Like, because my argument is this: the Raptors either had, in one hand, an expiring Kelly Olynyk and Bruce Brown, which neither guys was going to. Well, I guess Kelly Olynyk has another year, but my point is like Kelly Olynyk and Bruce Brown and this 2026 Indiana first round pick, or you have Brandon Ingram on a 3-year, $120 million contract. What is going to actually have more value going forward?
Yeah, I mean the argument against that. I mean, I'm with you. I think
like even just from a value, forget the fit, forget the talent. Even from a value perspective, I feel like there's more value in having a player of his caliber under contract that as compared to what was given up for him.
Yeah, I think from an asset management standpoint, they did a good job of flipping and getting a player of this caliber. I guess the only argument against is just like I guess like the Pelicans weren't in a rush to give him that money. Like, I don't know if Brandon Ingram would have gotten that money, but also, like, for the Raptor side, it's like, it's all that stuff about free agency where you actually have to go and get that player, right? Because, like, once you get into free agency. So I agree with you. I just think it's so interesting, too, is, like, Brandon Ingram's in this weird spot where, like, he obviously hasn't played a single game for the Raptors. Yeah. So, like, fans can get so hypothetical about everything. Yeah, because he's just been built up as this, like, savior now. Like, he's going to come in and just get buckets, just, like, 40 a game.
Okay, you only 40 a game.
But the expectations are so funny. Like he's gonna come and solve all of the team's like offensive problems. Like it's kind of amazing. He's in this weird spot where it's just pure hypothetical right now.
No, it's Schrodinger's cat, man. Like he's simultaneously in the box and also not in the box. Like
meow. He the big meow now.
He the hypothetical meow. The other question I had with this was just, do you think? Okay, what is the ceiling of this team? With the group coming in, because at least on paper you're like, okay, this is not bad, right? Like the starting five is pretty good. I've already argued that like the Raptors next year with the starting five with IQ, with RJ, with Scottie Barnes, with Brandon Ingram, with Jakob Poeltl, I would argue that those guys are all relative to their positions, top 5 players at their position relative to like Raptors franchise history. When you just look at the players who have played in each position, and then obviously coming off the bench, like we're pretty happy with the rookies like Jamal, Jacoby, Grady Dick probably coming off the bench next year. Whoever they add in free agency, stuff like that. If they keep Chris Boucher, et cetera, et cetera. Like the bench isn't terrible either. So it's like, on paper, the team looks good, but also at the same time, like, what do you actually see as, like, how good is that team next year and maybe even beyond?
If you told me they won, like, 40, like, mid-40s, I think that's I think that's possible. I mean, you rolling out that starting lineup, and I think you mentioned this before, too, they've made such progress, like, in the second half on defense. Are you a little worried about the defense with that starting lineup?
I am curious to see how sustainable that defense improvement is because part of it was because the schedule turned so easy. You know what I mean? Like, we can't throw out the fact that, like, if you hold the Brooklyn Nets to 80-something points, it's like, all right, man. But, like, like the Raptors played the Nets the other day. Their leading score was 14. Like,
who was it?
I don't even know, man. It might have been Reese Beekman or something.
What?
He's your Beekman.
Sounds like an Adult Swim series, man.
Yeah, Reese Beekman does sound like a BoJack Horseman character.
Oh my God.
No, but like, I think the path to them being, let's say, a 40, let's say best case scenario, they're a 45 win team next year.
Yeah.
The path towards that is that they have to be like at least top 10 on one side of the ball. And
Well,
right
I
now
think-
the Raptors are clearly closer on on the defensive end. So I think hopefully
But I
don't know.
think it might kind of
Hopefully it
switch
sustains.
next year based on this lineup. It's like I see the offensive potential more though.
yeah.
Like if you're looking at this starting lineup, and
But the issue is they actually do need to improve their offense too. Like their offense has been pretty bad the last 2 seasons.
no, Brandon Ingram's
Yeah,
gonna come in
whatever.
and drop 40 balls, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's gonna happen. No, but I think next year is gonna be about taking a step forward, and I think taking a step forward means like getting into that mid 40s range.
Okay.
Like I'd be pretty. I mean, wouldn't you be pretty disappointed if they won like 35 games next season?
Yeah, they should be disappointing if they won 35 games next season.
Yeah, but
for
that
sure.
would probably
Absolutely.
get them into the play-in anyway.
Yeah, let's check in on the East play-in, man. Holy, I haven't looked at this in a
I
minute.
think 35 gets you a home game against Miami.
So
you'd have to get
the
to
play-in
36.
total right now is Miami and Chicago both 36 right now.
Yeah.
36 wins. So
Yeah, embarrassing,
Yeah.
man.
it's
Just
tough.
absolutely embarrassing.
It's tough.
All right, next one. Continuing on this about next season, takeaway is that the spotlight is going to be on Scottie and Darko next season again.
Hmm.
I think Scottie's going to be entering year 5. So
Yep.
this will be his best team since he's become a number 1 option. I know that's a low bar. He's going to have the capable scorers around him. I think there's so many questions. What's the latest excuse for him? He's shooting with 3 fingers.
Yeah, Darko he threw that one out there this week. I mean, the fingers are injured. He was like, he's
I
been
get
shooting
it.
with 3 fingers for
It's
months.
a legit excuse. It's a legit excuse. But the shooting numbers.
It does come
haven't
across
been-
as an excuse. I think that's more
Yeah,
than
yeah,
anything
yeah.
else. Like, yeah, that's all. Yeah.
The shooting
But of course,
numbers
he
haven't
actually is
been-
hurt.
The
Yeah.
shooting numbers haven't been amazing, but it's like he's gonna be on a team with all these guys around him that can score. Like, what does kind of being the guy, the franchise guy, mean like next season? Because like you're actually being expected to win games now, right? And it's less about the numbers. It's more about finding your fit on this team with the rest of the guys that we've already talked about that he hasn't played a lot with, especially a lot of the starters. And like we've seen some of his fellow draft class guys like Kate Cunningham, Evan Mobley make the jump, like both as individual players, but also with the team success, right?
Mm-hmm.
So can Scottie replicate that? I think it's less about Scottie making huge jumps in the numbers, but more like, are you going to be part of a winning team next season and be talked about in that
Yeah.
way, right? So that's for me, that's Scottie for next season.
If I got your temperature check on this, were you more excited about Scottie Barnes after last season or after this season?
Probably after last season. Yeah.
Right.
Because it does
And
feel
I-
like he made some tangible jumps last year.
Right. Obviously, he made the All-Star game.
Yeah.
The start of the season I thought was really electric. He had some huge moments in that one as well.
But then
I
again,
st-
this season feels like a write-off again.
No, this season
In
has
some
become a
ways.
write-off. Yeah. I would say the Raptors tanked even harder this year as compared to last year. But
Yeah.
I think for me, the thing with Scottie is like, what I like this season is how many winning habits he's developing and he's exhibiting as a
Sure.
player.
Yeah,
So like, I like the focus that he's committed. I think the defensive effort, he's trying so hard every single night to play great defense. I think that he continues to try to emerge more as a leader on the team. I like that when asked, basically any player on the team is asked, like who's like helped, set the tone and lead and everything like that. Everyone to a man says Scottie. I think he's brought a great energy
Yeah.
on that front.
Did Darko
I
say
think-
that? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm not gonna honestly. Whatever Darko says about Scottie, I'm just kind of like, all right, it is what it is. It's your job. But like, I think, like I'm also judging based on what I've seen. Like, I think that like a lot of the bad habits that were more prevalent in previous seasons, in terms of like letting his emotions and his frustrations dictate his play on the court.
It's maturity.
I feel like
it's a maturity level.
yeah, that part is actually really, for me, like improved a lot. I think what's
Yeah.
really taken a step back, it's pretty obvious, is the efficiency with the scoring. Like,
Right.
and maybe just not even efficiency in his own scoring, but in terms of running the team's offense. Like,
Yeah.
it's this year, the concern for me is just like, does Scottie need to take a step back offensively to allow the team to take a step forward offensively? Because it's
Yeah,
like,
well-
if you're going to use that many possessions and you're going to have the ball that much and you're going to be inefficient, then it's like, that actually takes away from the success of the team. This year, you can definitely say it's development. But again, if you're trying to win next year, you probably shouldn't give a player who's, giving you 19, 20 points, but shooting at like a 53 true shooting percentage, right? You would actually ideally like to give that more to guys like IQ, guys like RJ, guys like Brandon, who are all going to be more efficient than that. But at the same time, for me, it's just like, it's so hard to make the case of why you should be more excited for Scottie after this season as compared to last season, simply because the efficiency dropped. And for me, it's just like, that might just be the difference between if you make a couple more shots, right? Like, ultimately, it's like, for me, I still see Scottie as like, he's taken a step forward this season as a person, as a team leader. I like all those winning habits that he's exhibiting. So, like, I'm actually pretty happy with sort of like where the Raptors are with Scottie. But offensively, that's where the concerns come in. And honestly, like, what you missed this week was like, he had a 5-point game, for example. He had like 4 straight games of like, I think 4 straight of like single digits.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like those kind of games is like, they do make it a little bit concerning about like, is he going to be like a top end number one? But like realistically, I don't think that that's going to be his role on like when the team is really good. I think his role on when the team's really good is he's going to initiate a lot of offense. He's going to play a lot of great defense for you. He's going to connect a lot of pieces for you. And then ultimately, the guys taking the shots will be the players around him. Like Scottie will probably be like the 3rd leading shot taker. Maybe even the 4th leading shot taker.
Yeah, I was going to say. I think in an ideal scenario, maybe he is 4th.
Yeah.
Behind RJ. IQ,
someone called him a friendly Draymond Green. Is crazy. That ain't Draymond Green. That isn't, man.
No, but there's certain aspects to that. It's like I do, like you mentioned, want to see Scottie set that tone on defense and set the tone on offense, like with his playmaking and like not the scoring. Like there was a whole stretch during the season when they were just letting him like let the threes fly. And that wasn't working out, and I think we've seen the limitations with the offense, but I don't think it should like deter people from being like discouraged about him on this team. I just think you're gonna see. I hope you see an ideal version of him next year based on the roster that is being put in place, right?
Yeah, and maybe this is just because I spend too much time on like the internet, and so I'm looking a lot at like Raptors, Twitter or like Raptors Reddit or wherever. But it's like, I think one thing people fall into a trap of is like buying into the agenda of a player rather than taking them for face value and like what they actually are. So it's like, if your agenda for the last couple of years has been like, we're gonna sell Scottie and like this is gonna, like, my agenda is like, he's gonna be the number 1 team player on the team. We got to get rid of everybody else. He's gonna be better than these other all-stars existing. Then it's like the agenda is taking a big hit. But I actually think that if you take the player at face value, I think the player at face value has taken a step forward, even though the agenda is harder to push this year. And it's just like, you got to abandon that agenda. That's like not serving either yourself or the player. It maybe probably just gets you more of a response online and get people to sort of respond to sort of a more hyperpolarized like feeling of him. But I think, again, like, it's not necessarily fair to him. Like, you know what I mean? It's I guess it's like kind of like a stock basically in a way. You know what I mean?
Man,
so
they're all crashing right now.
No, but I would just like to just take players as they are. You know what I mean? Like, then that way you can like not feel so like up or down about it, and also like
I think it's just being more
take
flexible.
emotion out of it.
Yeah, it's just being more flexible in how you view players too.
Well, I mean, you just wouldn't want people like you wouldn't view people like you wouldn't view your kids like that. You know what I mean? It's not like
I will never know. Yeah. Second part of this about Darko, first 2 years of Darko, it's great. He running in with the emotions after the wins, handing out chains, developing relationships with the players, pizza parties, all of that stuff. But, next season, he's going to get evaluated on wins, on actual wins, getting the best out of the roster. I think his, in-game management is going to get scrutinized more than it ever has these first 2 seasons. So, yeah, I think he's done some great things here first 2 years. You want to talk about establishing culture and all this stuff, but I think next year he's going to be under a spotlight a little bit once the team is being expected to win. So be interested to see how that goes.
Yeah, listen, I fully agree with you on that front. I think for me, one of the ways that you really evaluate like the strength of coaching is, especially in-game management, is what happens in crunch time. And of course, I want to acknowledge that like obviously the players decide the game, and especially with crunch time, given that it's such a small percentage of the game, we're usually talking about the last 5 minutes of a 48-minute game, so we're talking about like 10% of the game. But that like a key defensive shift here, or like a key like well-run executed play here is going to change like the outcome of the game, right? So that's where coaching I think is most magnified. And when I think back to the start of the season, because again, it's the start of the year and the Raptors were playing hard, what I remember coming back to a lot was like, the Raptors blowing a lot of fourth quarter leads. Like they would play well and then they would go in the fourth quarter and they would start just absolutely blowing it. And then like there were plays that in the last minute where it really came up to me. Like, for example, that game against the Clippers, the Raptors were down 3 and they inbounded twice to Jakob Poeltl above the 3-point line. And the Clippers, who are a very foul up 3 type of team, both times just fouled Jakob, put him on the line, and was like, well, you just can't do that. Like, you know what I mean? That's just a tactical error. That's not tanking back then. That's just a tactical error. And Darko actually admitted to it the following day against the Lakers. I was there on that trip. When you think back to those 2 losses against Denver, not taking the timeout and RJ running up for like a pull-up 3, that's never going to win the game. You know what I mean? There are little moments like that in terms of just like these things actually become important when you're trying to win. Right now, as you can notice on the show, we never talk about that anymore. You mean like late game management? Like we never talk about it, but like that's because we know what's going on. Next season, when they're trying to win, he needs to hammer out these fine details. The game management portion has to get better than what he's been, I guess, allowed to show this year. And that's like a big if, you know what I mean? That's an if. I think on the other fronts, Darko's done a great job. Like we praised him after he got the option picked up, right? Michael Grange broke that news, I think last week, that he got his option picked up. And we were like, absolutely, he should get his option picked up because he's done a great job developing the team and he's gotten them to play a good style. Year 1 was about getting the offense from playing an isolation system to playing a team system. And number 2, this year has been about getting the defense better. And I think on both fronts, those things have been good. The rookies are developing. The young guys are taking steps forward. Even Jakob's taking a step forward. So those things are all good. But again, next year it's going to be about like actually managing the game to win. And we'll see what happens next season. That's all.
Yeah, man, being a coach joining like a tanking team is actually pretty chill, man. You get like a couple of years of like job security and you just get like pats on the back for like building culture and stuff.
Yeah, it's like
it's nice, man.
What's the biggest critique of Darko this year? Like he didn't tank hard enough? It's like, come on.
Sure.
That's not even a real critique, man.
Yeah. Meanwhile, JJ Redick better figure out how to win a championship with Jackson Hayes in 3 weeks, man.
Well, no, why? Okay, but like this is why we praise Nick Nurse over Dwayne Casey. Who built a better culture? I think Dwayne Casey built a way better culture.
Yeah.
Of like hard work, developing players. How many players got their start with Dwayne and became great players? But like at the end of the day, when it's about like, do you double team LeBron James? And you choose not to, you get your ass fired. Meanwhile, Nick Nurse is like, I'm going to box and 1 Steph Curry, and then I'm going to win a champion, and I'm going to be hailed as #1 coach ever in Raptors history. Like, it does come down to these fine margins, man.
Yeah. All right, next one. Out of disrespect to Jakob, we're going to make this one real quick. So for me, we had Jakob Poeltl on the all-average team that we had schemed and came up with earlier in the season.
Yeah.
Because Jakob was just such an average player. But, I got to show my respects to Jakob. He is now on my all underrated team. I'm showing love. I'm bumping him out. I think he's, been one of the most dependable players on this team. We've seen just the numbers. The Raptors are just better when he's on the court. And he's filled a position that the Raptors really had to fill, like post-championship, after, Mark and Serge and then all those other centers that they ran through. Shouts to Freddie Gillespie. The timing of the trade's still weird. But, given where the team is now, the first-round pick has been conveyed to San Antonio.
Yeah.
Like, to me, Jakob feels just as important moving forward as all these other pieces that we've talked about, especially if they're trying to win starting next season. So just a shout-out for Jakob, man. I feel like he really showed himself this season, especially in a season where the team was going nowhere.
Oh, absolutely, man. Jakob, I think we've all gained, anyone who's watched this season of the Raptors has gained a special appreciation for Jakob and what he can do. He's been so steady as well. I think the efficiency's been always high with him, but it's different when he's like rolling to the basket and finishing layups versus like the 10, 15-foot push shots. Like it's such a rare skill. You actually don't see most centers in the league have this skill where it's like, for everyone else, a layup is like at the rim or at the basket or within 2 feet of the basket. For Jakob, a layup is within 10 feet of the basket, which just makes the basket huge, right? Like, it's so easy to set him up.
Okay, James Naismith.
By the way,
talking dimensions of the court.
the one thing I like, one thing I want to get to the bottom of is, so Jakob actually came off the bench one game this season.
He did.
Yeah,
Why, was he late?
No, I that's what I want to know, because obviously Jakob is a starter of this team. There's no doubt about it. But there's one game this season. It took place in Miami where Jakob came off the bench. He still played 27 minutes. It wasn't like he was injured or anything. But I remember that game. I think Bruno Fernando, shouts to him as well. Very forgettable Raptor. But he started the game against Miami, and I just want to know why Jakob didn't start the game.
The two reporters on the road didn't ask about this.
Yeah. Well, the Raptors are usually pretty lucky if they get two these days.
I actually usually one. I'm actually mad curious, man. I'm thinking it just might be like a situation where he had to take a bathroom break. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm thinking it's that.
Y'all taking a shit?
Yo, don't make me make a joke about Darius Garland and what type of slant he's on.
Goodness.
Okay, that's enough for Jakob.
As
usual, disrespect to Jakob. You only get 2 minutes.
Maybe we got to give like an all underrated team. This is like playoff ideas. Yeah. Okay.
We can work on that. Finally, final takeaway. I thought tapping into the nostalgia this season for the 30th anniversary year for the Raptors, as an overall, it worked. I think the Vince Carter jersey retirement, which came in the second week of the season, was such an emotional moment, and Vince deserves to be the first player to have his jersey retired by this franchise. I want to shout out the Open Gym crew. I thought Open Gym did a wonderful job of going back to all the different eras and really covering that in depth and really starting just new conversations, I think, for a lot of Raptors fans who might have been younger, who might not have known some of the history. Obviously, there were different documentaries that took place. And then the throwback courts, the City Edition jerseys with Vince's, we did a lot of Vince, but, I'll keep my thoughts to myself. And then random player cameos at games, which I know you were really excited about all the time. Man. So, overall, I think it was really cool. It was really cool for the team to take advantage of the 30th anniversary season.
By the way, if you're watching TSN these days, that documentary is on quite often.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we from prehistoric to historic, and you will see Alex Wong in this specific outfit, one of one outfit.
We are,
and he does say the exact line. It makes perfect sense that Vince Carter was the first jersey retired. Any sort of transition sentence, and then it was the 2027 season, and then and then it'll just. They don't got you saying one quotable. It's always just transition filler.
No one better than me in transition, other than 2016 LeBron.
Yo, they got you playing like Ben Simmons, man.
They're like, can you say blocked by Iguodala? Oh my God. So, I forgot my part. Oh yeah, we're trying to track down that blank hat, by the way.
Yeah.
The branding of that hat. I believe the latest speculation is Muji. Yeah.
It looked kind of like a Muji hat, but it could also be a Zara hat. It could be a Uniqlo hat. You never know.
Someone said the Tony Snell of talking heads.
That's just 28 minutes, 0, 0, 0.
0 points. This man made no points.
Zero quotables.
And then it was on to face the Warriors in the finals.
I think you might have said that exact line.
They should release a cut of just my words. Yo, I think it would summarize the Raptors' entire playoff history. They beat the Knicks, and Allen Iverson was next. The shot went up by Vince. I look good. But no.
But next season, they fired Isaiah Thomas. It's always just pure filler, bro. You got to watch the movie to know, man. You got to watch the doc.
Yeah.
I think I totally agree with you. This is definitely by far, for me, the biggest celebration of the Raptors that we've seen outside of 2019. And I've really, like you, really appreciated this chance to learn about the organization. Even for me, someone who's covered the team and has loved the team basically for the last 20 years, I wasn't around for the first 10. I don't even know how I would go about watching the first 10. You know what I mean? I actually need to see the documentaries. I need to see the interviews. I need to see the perspectives of these players, and I need to read books like the one you wrote. And it's I will always support that. Like, I think that this organization needs to sort of cherish itself, needs to sort of like drive that sense of like self-worth of like our story is worth telling. And I think finally this year the Raptors did that. And part of that for me, like, I am a little skeptical because it does feel like a big marketing scheme. At the end of the day, it's like, okay, we're going to tank this year. So what's the story going to be about? The story this year is going to be about the 30th anniversary, and we're going to use that to sell products and things like that. Like, you know, that's certainly a big aspect of it, right? Like, you know, we've seen that, you know, even on our show, for example. But like, I think the bigger thing for me is just like, the big takeaway I hope is like, I hope it doesn't fade after just this year. Like, no matter what anniversary it is, the Raptors are worth celebrating. The Raptors story is worth telling. The Raptors are worth investing into. You know, I think the bigger thing for me is just like companies like Bell and Rogers, who both made their own documentaries, or the Raptors themselves under MLSE, who, you know, obviously sent Open Gym to like Spain, sent them to Italy. Like, keep investing in that storytelling. Like, you're gonna like eventually fade as a brand if you're not successful on the court and you don't do a great job of just telling the stories of the players on the court. And I think for me, the biggest thing was just like, that was great. Like, I actually loved how much detail and how much interviews that we got, you know, like I love seeing that, like, obviously they paid guys like Terrence Ross and like, you know, TJ Ford and, you know, Jose Calderon to come into the city and stuff like that. Like, that was all paid for, you know what I mean? They spent a ton of money on Vince, like getting his jersey retired, but like, they deserve it. Like, this is an organization that has been second class. I think that was kind of like maybe the enduring trait from the very start, and you can speak more about it, but it's like, it was always the little brother to the Maple Leafs, you know, even within the same organization. On the MLSE, the Leafs are number one and the Raptors are like the afterthought. And it's like, you actually need to make it a big deal because the Raptors are a big deal to a lot of people, and I feel like this year we were actually fully serviced. So yeah, I liked how all out they went with it this year. And I don't know what the narrative for next season is going to be. You know what I mean? Like, as somebody who celebrated a 30th birthday, that 31st birthday is just one to go and one to forget. But like,
oh yeah, you're literally on the same timeline as the Raps.
Yeah.
By the way,
yeah.
people have pointed out this is the 29th season.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Because I think they count the first season as 0. Because 95-96 is the first season.
That's the first season. That's
so
25-26
should be the 30th season. I'm just saying.
No, that's the 31st season. No. No, your birthday starts at 1. You don't.
I don't know. Someone pointed that out
season.
to me. I gotta do the math on that. No.
Okay.
But
wow,
I love how this
just
is
two guys doing math.
I love how this is our math conspiracy now.
Yeah, that's crazy. What is this? Pablo Torre finds out.
The Raptors screwed up their 30th season.
Yeah, Alex Wong finds out that. No, come on, man.
I love how I just.
It's a matter of if you're talking about 30 seasons have passed or you're in your 30th season, which we are in our 30th season.
Right.
So, yes, if you want to celebrate 30 full seasons and look back, then I guess you're technically right. This season should have been a part of the celebration.
I can see this being like a 45-minute argument.
How many Asians does it need to count up to 30, dog? What's going on here? I wasn't expecting this.
Alex, is this just like a long way for you to say you're actually 39?
So the Raptors did it right. Okay. I'm just always waiting for an opportunity to call the Raptors out on getting something wrong.
Oh my god.
Yo, call them out because it's the 29th birthday. It's crazy.
I was waiting for this whole season to end before revealing that they had screwed up.
You were sitting on that? That's what you've been smirking about all year?
That's right. Someone did point out that it was interesting that Chris Bosh was a notable exception from being involved in the docs, the celebrations, the eras. I did hear from sources that Chris didn't really want to participate in a lot of this stuff because like he just wasn't sure how he was going to be portrayed.
He was in the doc that you were a part of.
Yeah, he was a very short part.
And then there was Chris Bosh.
He was a very short part of it. But like I think Chris was just weary because like his exit wasn't great here.
But it wasn't that bad, man.
Yeah.
Like, come on, dude. Chris Bosh's exit isn't even a top 3 most controversial exit in Raptors history.
Nah, that's fair.
Like Vince is number 1, Kawhi number 2.
Kawhi 2. Who would
and then
Who would be
I mean, I would say people lament more Tracy leaving.
Okay.
I would say people kind of like
DeMar?
talked about Damon Stoudemire leaving. the way DeMar got traded, even though that's not DeMar
Yeah.
leaving, is still talked about way more than Chris. I just accept that Chris Bosh left. Like,
Pascal
obviously
or Chris
he went to
Bosh?
the Heatles. Like, why would he? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't hold it against him, man.
I don't think people were so mad at Chris because like they didn't form that relationship with Chris like that here. Like
Yeah.
there was a relationship with Vince, there was a relationship with all of these players whereas like I don't think the connection was that close with Bosh
Yeah.
here.
I also think on the flip side, it's like if Vince Carter could literally come back, then what do you mean Chris is like, I'm worried about my reception of the Toronto? Like, bro, you're going to get cheered. Of course you're going to get cheered, man.
No, I think that's fair for Chris because it's like one of those things where for Vince, it's such a visceral thing either way. So like, it's kind of like Alex and I are super into wrestling. The worst thing is to not get heat at all.
Yeah, like you're not
And
loved
so, like,
or you're
if
not
Chris
hated.
Bosh comes back
Yeah.
and like he's neither like super loved or super hated, that might be actually worse.
He would
then,
get like
like,
some
have
he
a
would get
strong
some he would
response.
get some go away heat probably. Yeah.
Do you think? Okay, so Chris Bosh is obviously a top 10 Raptor. Like, I would, at worst, you
Sure.
would say he's like the number 6 best Raptor. But I would honestly say,
He's
talent
up
wise,
there. He's up there statistically too, right?
he's
when you look at
the
all
franchise
times.
leader in rebounds and blocks, and he's like
Yeah.
top 5 in points. And games played. So obviously Chris is like a huge part of the Raptors and certainly a very good player. Is Chris Bosh even a top 10 most popular Raptor of all time?
Ooh,
Because we're talking about popularity, not
No, Chris.
not
you know,
not
Chris,
accolade.
You know how people used to say like KD doesn't have stands? Like
Yeah.
if you
Yeah,
if you shift that to the Raptors universe, it's like Bosh doesn't have stands.
No.
Like there's
Yeah,
no
I
Chris
agree.
Bosh stands. Yeah.
Like, who do you think is more popular among Raptor fans, Norman Powell or Chris Bosh?
Norman Powell.
Norman Powell. Someone
Yeah.
mentioned Amir Johnson.
And Norm's not even a top 10 Raptor, man.
Amir Johnson is more
Quality-wise.
popular.
Yeah.
Amir Johnson's
Johnson-
probably
I mean,
more
it's-
popular than Chris Bosh, which is
It's also
nuts
just
because Chris is
reflective of
way
the
better
era
than
he was a part
Amir.
of. Yeah, it's just reflective of the era he was a part of. Like it was such a like nothing really happened during that time, and it was a transitional period. Like we remember what happened before it and after
Right.
it.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys talking through all of this, and a lot of people in the chat very adamant about like what this season will mean. I mean, if you watch the Open Gym episode covering the 2010s, it is a really good like high level view of seeing like how long it took across a decade to win at the very end in 2019. And you know, it starts with Chris Bosh and the idea of building around Chris Bosh, and then it moves to like DeMar taking over the team, and then
Yeah.
Kyle being a part of it, and just you know, obviously at a certain point, like with Dwayne Casey and We the North, like you see the momentum, and then you say like Kawhi and Nick Nurse kind of put it over the top, but like everything before that is like a series of like attempts and like you could say failed experiments, and that is kind of what it feels like we might be in right now. Like when we look back at this season, we might look at it as either the beginning of like something that is like really building towards something, or and this is not what this has nothing to do with like how Scottie Barnes is as a player or anything, but like in a high level view, he could be either a really beloved Raptor or like a Chris Bosh.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure, man. Because like, I think that's a great point. Because like, you look at these like last 3-4 years, like the Raptors have just been kind of in this kind of nowhere space.
Yeah,
Like moving the
For sure.
roster along, building around Scottie. I mean, they've been to the playoffs since Tampa, like what, once, right? Lost to the Sixers. Like there just has not been a lot going on. So I can easily see if the next few seasons don't go the way that they want, like this becomes another one of those eras that you kind of just like move on from.
no one's disparaging Bosh. Like this, like Bosh was. I mean, we.
I
talked about it,
disparage
think, on one
Bosh
of
a
our-
little bit. I'm sorry.
You do?
He
Okay.
was a little forgettable, but I
He is
agree with you. He was
forgettable.
really good, and he held us
He's
down.
really
I totally
good,
agree.
and every time you hear, I mean, we're past that now because I think most of the records have been broken. But
Mm-hmm.
every time we heard a particular statistical record for the Raptors get broken, they're like broken off of Chris Bosh's numbers.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And Bosh suffers too because he has like a certain playing style where it's not like crazy memorable.
Yeah,
Like as a
Sure.
as a star player, right? Like, you know.
similar
Well,
to
this is a good question here. What are some memorable Chris Bosh highlights? And like
we tried this and we couldn't come up with stuff.
everyone
before last week.
immediately jumps to like when he put on the Texan hat
Yeah,
and he
his
was like a
All-Star.
used
Yeah,
car
yeah, it's a lot of-
salesman
yeah.
for his All-Star campaign.
Yeah.
You know,
The
he
one
hit a
time
game
I
winner
saw-
against
the one time
Philadelphia.
I saw him and TJ Ford at a club, roped
There you
off.
go.
Him and TJ Ford at a roped off club. You know, remember when LeBron was yelling at his girlfriend courtside and said
Oh,
it's your
man.
fault and took over?
bought my parents courtside seats for that, man.
Yeah, that was LeBron's career high at that point. It was like 56 or something.
Oh,
Might
my
have been the
goodness.
last time they went to something together.
Yeah.
Um,
But Chris was a great player. I don't know what else to say. Chris was a great
but the
player. He
other
just
thing
like
too, like
just
you were
doesn't
talking
get
about it earlier,
remembered that
Will.
way.
You're talking about just like being able to see a player for who they are when
Mm-hmm.
talking about Scottie Barnes. Like when Chris Bosh got drafted, we were pitching him as the next Kevin Garnett.
Yeah. No, that was a real
And
conversation.
I think
We
it
were
really
trying.
hurt his ability, like that he had to come out of it and then
Mm-hmm.
actually be seen as like a really good player, and
Yeah.
then eventually had to redefine his career as like a great player as part of the Miami Heat.
I mean, Chris Bosh was on the 08 Olympic team, man.
Yeah,
Like, and he was like a big part of that team. Like, Chris Bosh was like, I mean, how many All-Stars did he make as a Raptor, man? He was like a Raptor, like
he also
one,
was like
two,
kind of early
three,
to the
four,
party, modern
five-time
NBA
All-Star.
big.
Yeah,
Like-
Chris was great, man. Shouts to Chris.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
But
we
very
gave
forgettable.
love to Chris, man. We celebrated
We
him.
gave more love to Chris than we did to Jakob Poeltl on this.
No, this is what Jakob
I mean, Chris is
deserves.
way better than Jakob. What are we talking about?
There you go.
man?
Yeah, we gave Chris the proper love.
And Jakob
for this,
Poeltl is probably going down as more beloved than Chris.
Oh,
for the
it's not.
Raptors.
It's
Yeah,
not
there
even
you go.
close already.
It's
yeah,
not even
so-
close.
Yeah, so congrats to the Raptors on celebrating your 29th season.
Come on, man.
It's good.
29th birthday, 30th year.
Yeah.
How long ago were you accountants, Alex?
Yo, if you were a client of Ernst & Young from 2012 to 2016, you might be entitled to a settlement.
Yo, why do you think the recession happened at the same time as I was auditing?
Oh my goodness.
Yo,
Oh,
you
this
see
guy's
me at an
DJ name
accounting
was Recession.
you see me at an accounting firm, that's a recession indicator, man.
Alex is just calculating averages year over year, but like subtracting a year each time.
This does remind me I got to do my taxes. Holy
Oh
man.
boy.
God damn
Goodness.
it.
Yeah.
all
By the
right.
way, the only takeaway I thought you would add to this list was just because it wouldn't be me without adding a bonus at the end of a show to extend
Here
it.
we go.
Even though I got to go to practice right now. But I think the big takeaway for me when I look back at this season was the 2024 draft class was pretty good,
Yes.
and it
yes,
really
that-
did
that was-
revive the depth of the team because
Yeah.
we went from having like. What was so sad about watching last season wasn't even the record, wasn't even Jonte Porter betting hitters, which is kind of nuts. But like, what was so sad about last season was we didn't even have prospects to watch when it was garbage time. It was like Javon Freeman Liberty, Malik
Yeah,
Williams,
yeah.
Jordan Wara, Jalen McDaniels. It was like, dog,
You were looking
not-
forward to Summer League this year, actually.
No, there was like
Or last
literally
year, the last summer.
nothing towards the end of last season to look at other than if Grady Dick would hit 20 points. It was like, all right, whatever. But it's like, that was surprising about last season. The cupboards were absolutely bare. And this
So
year,
thanks, Will. I set up a lower third with your
thank you,
bonus
Jerome.
last second.
No, but this year the Raptors actually did restock their cupboards, and that's why like even the tankable games this year towards the end, I'm still okay with watching Jamal Shed cook. I'm still okay with watching Jacoby cook. Jonathan Jameson, these guys. The 4 J's, man. We got BBQ and we got the 4
We got
J's.
J's too, man. Oh, come on, man.
We got 4 J's,
I
man.
can't wait to watch your 12-part doc Raptor City in 30 years, man.
And the 4th J was Jameson.
No, we got three level.
Brought
we
us
got,
to battle.
we got 3 levels of rookies to root for. Like
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
immediate rookies, like
Yeah.
guys like Jacoby, and then we got like long-term guys like Ulrich, and then these middle guys like what can Mobo become, like what can some of these guys become, and then randomly throw in. Hey, did Colin Castleton end up on the Sixers?
Oh yeah, he ran out of 10 days. Yeah.
I saw a graphic and I was like, how many teams are you taking for?
Yo, the Raptors are like me with Apple TV, bro. I subscribe for a week, and then I use a different email, and I subscribe for another week, and then I'm like,
To
all
the
right,
eyes of our bench guys.
Yo, I saw Castleton in a
I
Sixers
need this mask,
graphic,
man.
and I was like, what the hell's going on this season, man? Holy. I need Castleton to end this week on the Jazz, man.
I wonder if the NBA has set a new record for how many players have suited up in the NBA this season. It has to be.
It's possible.
This
I mean,
was like the best year possible to be a G League player. Like
The Sixers, Sixers probably ran through 30 players this season. I wouldn't even be surprised.
Well, it could be
the way
29.
You
You
could be
never
an
know.
NBA journeyman now from just going around from tanking teams in
Yeah.
a single season.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
The
All right.
Philadelphia 76ers have had 29 exact players
Wow.
play for their team, including someone named Philip Wheeler, bro. That is an NHL player.
No, that's a modern
Philip
family
Wheeler
character.
didn't make it to the final table in the World Series of
That's
poker.
that's a modern family
Yo,
character. right?
they got Lester Canonas. They got Pete Nance, not Larry Nance, but Pete Nance. They got David Roddy. They got Colin
More
Castleton,
like
Alex
Lester don't
Reese.
know who is.
Goodness, man. O'Shea Brissett, Jared Butler, Chuma Okiki.
David
You love
Roddy.
me.
Who's he
Like-
fighting? Braun Strowman next week?
Oh boy.
All right.
So
Will's
right.
got to get to practice.
Yeah.
that's right.
Those are our takeaways. When are we going to be back? Thursday?
We'll be back Thursday. So because the next Raptor game will be actually Wednesday. Raptors play the Charlotte Hornets. That game, so basically all season what I've done is like I'll go to the arena and then I'll either leave before the start of the game or I will leave at halftime and basically scramble my way home. When I say scramble, I mean scramble. Like I mean like
Absolutely.
I run over to the up train station.
No,
I take
picture-
it one stop to
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Bloor. Then I
Picture
like
Bart-
go on my scooter.
He also tries to watch games sometimes on his way back.
You guys don't even-
Picture Bart Simpson at the start of the Simpsons sequence
That's
when
it.
he's
That's
on
exactly
the
it.
skateboard,
That's
skateboarding
exactly it.
all the way home.
Yeah.
The most insane part about this is the up train takes about 7 or 8 minutes to get to from Union to Bloor Go. The halftime is 15 minutes, and then I need another like 10 minutes to get home from there. So sometimes the game is or like the third quarter's already started. So what I'll do is I will walk my scooter and watch the game, and then as soon as a timeout happens, which is 2 minutes and 30 seconds, I'll scoot 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and then the game will restart, and I'll watch again. And then I'll wait for the next timeout, and then I'll scoot another like 2 minutes.
Honestly,
Like,
W's
I'm like
in the chat
inching
for
my way
Will's
home every
commitment
single game,
to this,
basically.
because we were trying to find solutions all season, and maybe we'll figure out something next season. But Will has like just been grinding every home game.
Yo,
41
grinding
games.
for 29 wins during the team's 29th season. Yeah.
29 for 29.
Yeah.
Anyway, the reason I say this
W's
is
for Will, man.
the reason I say this is just the last home game of the season is a good chance to say goodbye to a lot of people. Obviously, a lot of people that you're not going to see them outside of like work. I guess I'm saying goodbye to work friends, unfortunately. But like, I do always relish that chance.
It's the last
game
day
of the
of school.
season. Yeah, last day of school. Sometimes Raptors PR will hand you out some beers. People take some photos on the court. Yeah, I mean, just hang out. I'm gonna miss all these people for the summer. So for that reason, I'm actually not gonna do my insane grind to get home.
Yeah,
And I'll actually stay
okay.
behind, but that does mean that we can't go live after the game. So,
So we
instead,
won't be going
we'll
live after the game, and we'll
we'll come to you Thursday. All right, you guys don't need Raptors Sixers or Raptors Hornets
No,
like that.
we're gonna
didn't even get the opponent right.
letterbox
Yeah.
rating all 30 teams on Thursday.
Yeah.
On
There you go.
Thursday. Well, we will record on Thursday. We might not go live with it on Thursday.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll see what we're gonna do. But we have a couple episodes coming for the rest of the week.
Hmm.
The Raptors season will finish on Sunday, but don't worry, we do intend on doing coverage on the playoffs. A lot of draft coverage. Alex and I might do.
Aren't
a
you
lot
guys
of
investigating?
wrestling.
Aren't y'all investigating?
We were in the middle investigating.
The files have been submitted. Yeah.
The files have been submitted.
What
No,
y'all been
Jerome-
building for
Jerome-
a string?
Jerome's a busy guy, so. Okay. We might-
you know
we
what?
might-
Well, now you do have to come back for the thing tomorrow.
You know the difference between you and me? I bleed red. You bleed green.
Oh my
crazy,
goodness. All right. Well, Will, get yourself to practice. Everyone, thank you for tuning in.
Yes.
We will talk to you later next week or later within the week. And yeah, this has been the Hello and Welcome podcast presented by Betway. We'll talk to you soon.